Hello, everyone. Wyatt Claypool here. A big tell that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the federal Liberals are starting to realize just how much Canadians dislike them is they've started making some minorly okay decisions on public policy recently. The Liberals never make good decisions. The only times they ever do is when their backs are up against the wall and their polling has hit the floor. And it has truly hit the floor today. Later on in this video, I'm going to go over some of the Abacus data numbers. The Liberals are literally tied with the NDP right now, which would mean that not only would they score fewer seats than the Bloc Québécois, they'd also be scoring fewer seats than the NDP. The Liberals would be the fourth place party in Parliament if the election was held today based on Abacus's data's numbers. And Abacus tends to be pretty good when it comes to national polling. But recently, the Liberals, 3 weeks ago, they cut the amount of new permanent residencies per year by 101,000. Still nearly not a big enough cut. We still have 395,000 people who can enter the country and become permanent residents per year. The Liberals also slashed new temporary foreign worker visas and student visas. Still not enough. I think in terms of immigration and all these different visas we're handing out, we should be reducing it by 75%, 80%. We should be bringing in less than 100,000 new people per year, and they better have skills we need. They can't be bringing many dependents with them, and they actually have to go through values testing so we know that they're not going to protest in favor of Hamas on our streets. But recently, the Liberals just made another sort of okay decision. Like, again, it's not everything I want, it's not even a fifth of what I want, but they realize that Canadians think that they are absolute zealots on tax and spending, that they tax people way too much and spend on frivolous nonsense. Although they haven't cut spending at all here. If anything, this is actually going to add to our debt and deficit because Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau, make no mistake, Jagmeet Singh is still a partner in this government. Those two are allergic to cutting spending. But at least this is something. I am giving him a tiny little like finger clap on, look, good, this will help people. Again, it's cynical. Justin Trudeau is basically trying to bribe Canadians for votes with these temporary measures, but at least people are going to get some money not taken from them by the government for a bit. And you'll notice here that he's not doing this for the carbon tax. But the recent thing that Justin Trudeau announced today was Canadians are getting a tax break. Starting December 14th, we're pausing GST and HST for 2 months to make groceries, kids' clothes, and other essentials tax-free. And while you're here, you should know this too. If you worked last year and made up to $150,000, you'll get a $250 check in your mailbox in April. The working Canadians rebate. Um, Again, this is cynical, especially that second part. We're just going to mail you a check for $250. I guess he's trying to one up Doug Ford, who was going to send everyone in Ontario $200. Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau are almost the exact same politician. I know people hate Justin Trudeau in a very unique way that they don't hate a politician like Doug Ford. But as Daniel Boardman, my sometimes co host, says, Doug Ford is basically Fat Trudeau. And now Justin Trudeau is copying Doug Ford and is mailing people checks. That's the element of this plan I think is annoying. It's stupid. The amount of money you actually have to spend to administer that program to send people $250 is probably going to cost each taxpayer more than $50 to do because it takes quite a bit of time and resources and staff members to put something together like this. The part I like is at least the GST and HST pause for 2 months. I don't know why we wouldn't just cut the federal side of HST or the GST by 1 or 2% permanently. That'd be a smart idea. Or here's the thought: get rid of the carbon tax. He's doing this because he realizes how unpopular carbon tax is, but he thinks it hurts him if he gets rid of the carbon tax or says, I'm putting a pause on the carbon tax for 2 years or whatever, that it makes it look like he's surrendering. Trudeau, even when he's trying to do something somewhat correct to try and win back some support, he's not willing to go far enough that I think this is going to help him in the polling at all. It's smart politics. I don't like Trudeau. Again, I'd never vote for the Liberals. I never vote for the NDP, the Greens. Definitely not voting for the Bloc since I live in Alberta. But it's smart politics what he's doing, but it's not smart enough to dig him out of the hole he's in. This is something that Trudeau should have done before the 2019 election if he was trying to raise his support and win a second majority. It should have been something he was doing in 2021. 2024, going into 2025, this is like a too little too late. You already burnt Canadians' house down. You can't show up with like a coupon book to give them. This is kind of not much of anything. It still saves people money, so I'll always cheer for people being able to save money who are struggling. But it's almost insulting at the same time knowing just how little they're really giving you based on how much they've taken over time. Anyways, but now I just quickly want to move over to this Abacus data poll because this is what's motivating the liberals. Not that the liberals are specifically following Abacus as the main pollster they look at, but they're one of the more accurate pollsters. Right now, the conservatives have a 22% lead over the liberals. The liberals fell from their last poll on November 5th, 1%. Obviously, polls can kind of, gurgle back and forth a little bit over time. So I just advise never take the numbers from a single poll as gospel truth. If they did a poll every single day, the poll numbers would be a little bit different, but they would generally sit within a certain band of reasonable results. But the Liberals being tied with the NDP is a death knell for the NDP. The Bloc's doing okay. With their 8% in Quebec, they should be cleaning up a lot of seats, and they might even still dig into the island of Montreal further. But again, the main thing here, and even check out this. So the Conservatives are at 43% in this poll. The PPC's at 3%. That is not that bad for the PPC. I think the party should just pack it in. The PPC doesn't really have much of a reason to exist. But the fact that the Conservatives are punching a few points over 40% and the PPC is still on the table is quite good for the Conservatives. I don't think anyone can catch them at this point. It has nothing to do with Justin Trudeau's reputation. Even if Justin Trudeau just started acting like Poilievre, scrapping the carbon tax, cutting income taxes, cutting wasteful spending, if he started doing everything right suddenly, I think the Canadian people at this point just say, okay, but in a certain sense, you've committed too many political crimes in a metaphorical sense for us to give you back the keys to the castle. In a certain sense, Justin Trudeau has probably committed a lot of real crimes, and that's also why he shouldn't be let back in. But I think people genuinely want to see what the Conservatives will do more if they're put into office. That's actually why what the Liberals are currently doing is actually very good for the Conservatives. Cutting immigration by 100,000, getting rid of this or pausing the HST, GST for 2 months and stuff like that. It's priming the pump for the Conservatives where the Conservatives can then say they want to do something further. So obviously they're going to scrap the carbon tax, but they can say also a 2% income tax reduction across the board, which they absolutely should do. Our top level income tax bracket is 33%. That's insane. And when you combined it with the top effective tax rates in other provinces, in places like Ontario, you pay 53% taxes if you're in the upper income bracket. If you make more than 300,000, you're making 53%. And people will be like, "Well, I don't make 53%, or I don't make over 300,000." Sure, but a lot of business owners who employ people do, and that's a great way of chasing people into the United States, especially when Donald Trump is going to be the next president. We're going to have a hard time keeping jobs here if he starts slashing taxes and making it so much easier to operate there. But I want to move on to some of the other results. But the 21% too, I'm just going to say as I'm scrolling here, that's not good for the NDP. Because look at the NDP. March of 2023, I think the NDP got 17%, 18% in the last election. The NDP has been on a trajectory to nowhere. They aren't going up, they're not going down, they are flatlining under the pure lack of leadership of Jagmeet Singh. He is only holding on to any of the support he has because Justin Trudeau sucks that bad that he's basically gifting Jagmeet Singh's support. Jagmeet Singh hasn't earned a single vote he's ever gotten in the sense that he's really just the third party left of center or more left party than the Liberals. So they end up eating up a lot of support from the Liberals who, they're people who they don't like Justin Trudeau, but they don't want to admit that lefty policies are bad, so they'll vote NDP, even if the only difference between Trudeau and Singh is how many dollar signs they put after their piece of policy, the spending commitments they make. But that is insane, and actually, in fact, I believe the 21% for the NDP that they're actually a little bit higher if you go into the decimal point range, but maybe that's a little bit hairy to sort of see who's ahead by single decimal points on a national level. But yeah, Jagmeet Singh doesn't deserve this. It's just demonstrating how much people don't like Trudeau. And I want to go into, so here's the regionals too. This is what also proves that Frank Graves at Ecos is a terrible pollster. I'm not sure if you saw that poll recently. Maybe I still have the graphic here to show you guys. His poll at Ecos was absolutely terrible, where he was showing that like the liberals were, I don't think I have it here. He was showing that the liberals were ahead in British Columbia, or at least they were close in British Columbia, and that the NDP was only 11%. You'd be a buffoon to think that the Liberals, the NDP was only at 11% in British Columbia. There's currently a BC provincial NDP government. Sucks, but that's the reality, and that tends to help with the federals. He had the Liberals ahead in Saskatchewan, Manitoba. That's insane. So this Abacus data poll is actually realistic in what's going on right now. The Liberals are even in third place in Quebec. That's where the only seats they're going to win in the entire province are in Montreal. Go on to the next step. We have Quebec versus the rest of Canada. Not as interesting, but this is another thing that needs to be seen. The Conservatives are dominating 18 to 29-year-olds. Yes, it's only 10% ahead of the NDP, but it's also 10% ahead of the NDP. This is the demographic that the NDP are supposed to be winning the plurality of. 60 and over, this is the demographic the Liberals are supposed to be winning the plurality of. The Liberals, and I've said this in videos like months ago, the Liberals are actually the older party. A lot of pensioners vote for them. They make them comfortable. They don't rock the boat, at least on the surface level. They are perceived to being very stable, in part because a lot of people above the age of 60 will watch the CBC and Global and CTV News. And so they hear a lot of experts get on the TV and say, Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre is going to cut all your services. He's going to hand your money to billionaires. And people who watch news all day long might take that to heart. This poll shows, no, they're not taking it to heart anymore. You guys suck at your job so bad. We don't even trust you. We trust you only barely as much as we trust the NDP, and they are not scared anymore of Pierre Poilievre. This actually shows the decent gender gap that's showing up in Canada, but the Conservatives are closing the gap. That's a very good number for women. I've seen the Conservatives sometimes only at like 35% with women, and that's the thing that you want to avoid in the future, is having the Conservatives become the male party and the NDP and the Liberals become the female party, because I don't think I have to tell you that's bad for societal cohesion in the long run. So now I just want to quickly check the approval numbers for Justin Trudeau. This is why the Liberals are doing so bad right now. Justin Trudeau, as I've said in many videos, his party only ever polls within a couple of points of his approval rating, because unlike Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, I'll go to Pierre Poilievre's numbers. So the Liberals were at 21% in this poll, and he's at 23% for approval. Oftentimes, it's actually right on the money, the exact same. There's Jagmeet Singh slowly rising back up after he started taking those stances against the consumer carbon tax. But Pierre Poilievre, he is a little bit above water, 40% to 37%. But the thing that you'll notice over time with Pierre Poilievre is at times when he's polling at only 35%, or he's polling at 38 or 37, he oftentimes the Conservative Party, will be at like 45% in the polls or 42%. You don't have to like Poilievre to think voting Conservative is a good idea. That's what's so bad for Justin Trudeau. If you don't like Justin Trudeau, there's not a chance that you'll consider voting for the Liberals, because he's the Liberal Party. He has dictatorial powers over their party. They have not signed the Reform Act that the Conservative Party has. Their caucus can't even vote to remove Justin Trudeau as the leader the way the Conservatives were able to when it came to Erin O'Toole's leadership. This is the big problem in the Liberal Party, is that they make changes like a giant freighter slowly turning in the Suez Canal. They have a very difficult time actually making policy or governance changes, because everything goes through Justin Trudeau. And I don't probably have to tell you that Justin Trudeau is a complete policy dullard. He doesn't know what he's doing. He probably got finally scared of how bad his polling numbers were, and finally basically said, okay, cut the HST, cut the GST for 2 months. We'll see where that puts us. And I think they're actually experimenting when it comes to policy, seeing what happens when they make some of these minor changes to afford, like on affordability measures. Um, I want to see if I can find, just before I end this. I do want to see if I can quickly find the polling when it came to seat projections in the latest poll, because that's what's been like the really scary thing for the Liberals today. Yeah, here we go. I always use Sharia Teast. You guys should give him a follow if you're on X. I think he does a really good job modeling the seat counts and projections, and he's honestly been pretty on most of his predictions, even in by-elections. He tends to predict them within a few points just based on his own instinct. And on this poll, he's showing the Conservatives at 226 seats, the NDP at 47, the Bloc at 43, and the Liberals in fourth place with only 26 seats. Amazing. And this is what the country would end up looking like with this polling. Just blue everywhere. The entire country's blue except for some of the territories, the block areas, and then it's just the cities like the Greater Toronto area where the Liberals are holding on to a handful of seats. Montreal, where they're holding on to the tip of the island and some of those, but the Bloc and even the Conservatives will be grabbing Mount Royal, and the NDP start grabbing up seats around there. It's not good. It's not good. I don't think I even have to tell you that. Anyways, so I'll actually link Sharia Teast's post down in the description below. You guys should go follow him. But if you're currently not a subscriber of my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment. And if you want to support my work, you can always donate to the legal fund in the description of the video below, as well as pinned at the top of the comments. It's the Give, Send, Go link. We're being sued by a Chinese billionaire for defamation that he still hasn't provided any evidence for. And I believe it's now been officially 3 years. It's one of the most long and grinding cases I've ever experienced or followed, and it happens to be my own. And yeah, it's cost me over $33,000 fighting this thing. And the reason it's gone on so long is Alberta doesn't have anti-slap laws, which allow you to basically appeal to a judge, say, isn't this case kind of ridiculous? And they can throw it out. This way, it can go on for years without the judge being able to make any judgment on it, saying that this is obviously stupid. So they can grind away and cost you a lot of money. But also, if you want to go down in the comments, I have pinned alongside the Give, Send, Go link in the comments, my website, WyattClaypool.com. Go and sign up there on the list if you guys want leadership or nomination recommendations for both federal and provincial ridings. I'm trying to make a big enough list so that once I start recommending people, so I think a good one, if you live in Manitoba or New Brunswick, there's going to be leadership races there. Those might be the first I end up trying to step into and trying to point out good candidates and find ways for you guys to get involved. But this will allow us as kind of, I guess, a channel community that we can go into races and actually vote downline altogether from the most conservative and competent and professional candidate to the least, the most liberal, the most, not the one we wouldn't have a lot of confidence in, because that's what I think we need to do is more people need to get involved in nomination races. Of course, I ran in a nomination in Calgary Signal Hill. I was kicked out of the nomination because certain people up at the top of the Conservative Party were just trying to jam in somebody that they were an ally of. Joke's on them. I still made sure that the guy they wanted still lost despite the engineering of the vote. So, I got kicked out because they didn't want me to win, and then their guy still lost, which is hilarious. But in general, you don't experience something like that and then say, well, I'm going to take my ball and go home. You just keep running in more nominations. You keep helping other people in nominations. You just keep jamming away, trying to get the best possible looking Conservative Party caucus you can get. And this doesn't mean like, oh my goodness, they messed with that nomination. Are all the Conservatives Party MPs fake? No, the vast majority of them are good. They won their nominations flat out. But what the problem is, when the party gets 20 points ahead in the polls, you get some people who start picking and choosing who's going to win because they're like, well, if there's any blowback, we won't lose anything. This has nothing to do with pure politics. It has to do with like specific advisors and individuals. 99% of the people I've met in the party are perfectly fine. It's the few weirdos on top who start to say this person wins, that person doesn't. And it's like, well, then the nomination's not real anymore. Anyways, so that's it for me today, guys. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, donate. Have a good one.